Hey everyone! Before we dive into this, thank you. Thank you for clicking on this video. If you're new here, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was there when the world started to rot. I'm a SWAT operator. Or I was. And this is how I survived the first 24 hours of the outbreak. They called it a riot. That's what dispatch said. Reports of violent unrest at the Aurora Point Medical Complex. Hostages, possible explosives, full team deployment. Bullshit. I'd been on the force for 8 years. SWAT for 3. You learn to smell lies. That night, the air reeked. My team rolled out in 2 armored trucks, streets empty except for the wail of our sirens. No traffic, no pedestrians, just the flicker of streetlights cutting through the dark like a strobe. Captain Riggs briefed us on the way. Intel says a group of domestic terrorists stormed the lab. They're demanding the release of some political prisoner, names classified. Hostages are high profile, scientists, execs, the kind of people who get black SUVs and 24/7 security. I tightened my gloves. Why us? Feds not want to dirty their hands? Riggs didn't laugh. They tried. Lost 6 agents breaching the lobby. Whatever's in there, it's eating them. The truck fell silent. We hit the complex at 10 p.m. The place was a fortress. 12 stories of glass and steel lit up like a Christmas tree. But no movement. No snipers on the roof. No shadows in the windows. Just the wind howling through the parking lot, scattering trash and syringes. Command set up a perimeter 3 blocks out. No press, no cops. Just us, 2 armored vehicles, and a hazmat team in glowing orange suits huddled by a tent. Riggs pulled me aside. Your point. Take Vega and Haddad. Clear the east stairwell, sweep floor by floor. Hostages are on level 5. Shoot anything that ain't begging for mercy. Vega cocked his rifle. Rules of engagement? Riggs stared at the building. Burn it all. We breached the east entrance. No resistance. The lobby was a slaughterhouse. Blood streaked the walls. Bodies in suits and lab coats lay twisted on the marble. Not just dead. Opened. Rib cages pried apart. Skulls cracked like eggshells. And the smell, like meat left in the sun. Haddad gagged. What the hell did this? Vega kicked a shattered jawbone. Dogs! A noise cut him off. A wet, clicking growl. From the hallway ahead, I flicked my rifle's safety off. Move. We found the first one in a stairwell. A woman in a shredded hazmat suit. Her head snapped toward us, neck bending too far, too fast. Her eyes were milk white. Her jaw unhinged, teeth glistening black. She lunged. 3 rounds to the chest. She didn't stop. Vega screamed. Head! Shoot the goddamn head! My next bullet tore through her eye. She dropped. We stood there, breathing hard. Haddad whispered, What is that? I didn't answer. By the 3rd floor, we'd burned through half our ammo. They came at us in waves. Not terrorists. Not even people anymore. Nurses with fingers chewed to bone. Security guards crawling on broken legs. All of them. Hungry. Haddad took a bite to the arm. Fought the thing off. Put a bullet in its skull. Vega tossed him a bandage. Wrap it tight. We'll get you to a medic. Haddad laughed. Yeah, sure. 20 minutes later, he started seizing. Vega backed away. Man, your eyes! Haddad's head snapped toward him, pupils blown black. Foam dripped from his lips. I didn't hesitate. We hit the 5th floor at 11:47 p.m. Vega was gone, dragged into a vent by something with too many teeth. I was alone. The hallway to the lab was pitch black. Night vision showed me enough. Bodies, blood, and a voice, human, crying for help. I followed it. The lab doors were barricaded with desks and IV poles. A man in a lab coat huddled behind them. "Thank God! They're everywhere! Please!" I aimed at his forehead. "Why'd they hit this place? What's in the lab?" He sobbed. "Project Blacklight. It was supposed to enhance soldiers, regenerate tissue, but it rewired them, made them aggressive, infectious." My blood went cold. "You made these things?" The power surged. Lights flickered. In the strobe I saw them, dozens. Pressed against the glass, teeth snapping, the scientist screamed, "They're here!" The window shattered. The glass exploded inward, a storm of teeth and claws. I fired blind, backing into the lab as the scientists screamed. One of them, a thing that might have been a janitor once, latched onto his leg. Its jaws snapped shut like a bear trap. The man's femoral artery burst, painting the walls crimson. He didn't even get a chance to beg. I emptied my magazine into the swarm. Heads popped. Limbs flew. But they kept coming, climbing over their own dead, driven by that hunger. I slammed the lab door shut, jamming a steel chair under the handle. The barricade wouldn't hold. Already fists and skulls pounded against the metal, dents forming like rotten fruit. The lab was a war zone. Monitors shattered, papers soaked in blood. And in the center, a reinforced glass chamber, empty, its door hanging open. Warning labels plastered the walls. Biocontainment level 4, lethal pathogen. A computer screen flickered nearby. I smashed the keyboard, pulling up files before the system died. Project Blacklight. Video logs, test subjects strapped to gurneys injected with a black, oily serum. Their veins bulged, skin turned gray. Then the screaming started. One subject, a soldier according to his file, tore through steel restraints like paper. He killed 6 researchers in 12 seconds. The last clip showed a hazmat team dragging bodies into incinerators. A voice off camera. "It's airborne. God help us, it's in the vents." The door behind me groaned. The chair splintered. Time to move. I found a stairwell leading down. Sub-level 3. High security storage, according to a faded sign. The air here was colder, thicker. My flashlight cut through the dark, revealing steel doors labeled Specimen Archives. Inside, rows of freezers hummed. I pried one open. Body bags. Dozens of them, tagged with dates from the past week. I unzipped the nearest. A child, no older than 8. Her throat torn out. Black veins spiderwebbed across her skin. I stumbled back. They'd been testing this on civilians. A noise echoed down the hall. Boots. Human boots. I ducked behind a freezer as 3 figures entered. Not infected. Not SWAT. Men in black tactical gear. No insignia. Silent. Professional. The leader spoke into a radio. "Assets not here. Proceeding to purge." Purge. They pulled canisters from their packs. Biohazard symbols glared in the flashlight beam. One of them hesitated. What if they're survivors? The leader leveled his pistol at the man's head. "You volunteering?" They moved out. I followed, staying shadow close. The men descended to sub-level 5. A server room. Banks of computers, wires snaking into the floor. The leader typed a code into a terminal. A hidden door hissed open. Inside, a makeshift armory, crates of weapons, body armor, and a steel case stamped with a corporate logo, Valkyrie Dynamics. The leader popped the case. Vials of black serum glinted under the lights. "Set charges. We erase everything." One of his men hesitated. "The outbreak's already spreading. This won't stop it." The leader grabbed him by the throat. "We're not here to stop it. We're here to control it." I stepped into the room, rifle raised. "Hands up! Now!" The leader smiled. "SWAT! How quaint!" He moved fast, too fast. A knife flashed. I ducked, but the blade sliced my vest, drawing blood. These weren't just mercenaries. They were enhanced. The fight was brutal. Fists cracked ribs. A chokehold nearly blacked me out. I killed one with a broken bottle to the carotid. Another took a grenade to the chest, courtesy of his own belt. The leader pinned me, his eyes wild. "You think you're saving anyone? This is evolution, and you are prey." I headbutted him. Bone crunched. He staggered, and I grabbed the steel case, the serum. He lunged. I slammed the case into his face. Once, twice, until his skull caved. Alarms blared. The charges were set. I ran. The stairwell shook as explosions rocked the sublevels. Fire chased me, melting the walls. I hit the lobby as the building's supports groaned. Outside, chaos. The perimeter was overrun. Cops and hazmat teams fought and died against hundreds of infected. A helicopter circled above, its spotlight freezing me for a split second. Then gunfire, not from the ground, from the chopper. Bullets chewed the concrete at my feet. They weren't rescuing. They were cleaning house. I dove behind the armored truck. The case of serum burned in my grip. The fire spread. The horde closed in. And then I saw it. A sewer grate. Last resort. I pried it open, dropping into the filth below as the world above erupted in flames. The sewer stank of rot and chemicals. Knee-deep water sloshed as I waded through the dark, the steel case clutched to my chest. Above, the world burned. Explosions quaked the tunnels, raining concrete dust. Screams, human and not, filtered through the grates. I didn't stop. Couldn't. The serum in that case was the only leverage I had left. Proof that this wasn't an accident. It was a plan. But the dark played tricks. Whispers echoed off the walls. A child's laugh. A woman sobbing. I knew they weren't real. Knew the infection couldn't get in my head unless I was bitten. I shoved the thought down. The cut on my ribs from the Merc's knife burned, but it wasn't a bite. I was clean. Had to be. The Mercs had been here, purging witnesses. I stepped over them. Don't look. Don't feel. A sound stopped me. Giggling. Behind a rusted pipe, a boy crouched. No older than 5. His Spider-Man shirt was caked in sewage. He smiled, waving a candy bar. Want some? My finger hovered over the rifle's trigger. Are you hurt? He shook his head. Mommy said hide, so I'm hiding. Where's Mommy? He pointed down the tunnel. With the monsters. A chill shot through me. Stay there, I'll get you out. I reached for him. His head snapped sideways. Bones cracked, rearranging. His jaw unhinged, teeth elongating into needles. A gurgling snarl erupted from his throat as he lunged. I fired. The bullet tore through his tiny chest. He kept crawling, snapping at my boots. I'm sorry, I whispered, and put another round in his head. Dawn approached. Weak light bled through the grates. The city was eerily quiet now. No sirens, no gunfire, just the distant moans of the infected. I surfaced in an alley behind a diner. Trash bins overflowed, flies buzzed, and in the distance the Aurora Point Complex smoldered, a skeleton of blackened steel. The case felt heavier. I needed to move, find command, find someone who wasn't dead or corrupted. An engine revved. I ducked behind a dumpster as a military convoy rolled past. National Guard? No. Unmarked trucks. Valkyrie Dynamics logo on the doors. They were hunting. The safe house was a gutted pharmacy. Boarded windows. First aid kits looted. But in the back room, a radio hissed. I tuned it to the emergency band. Any remaining personnel, rendezvous at Station Delta. Quarantine in effect. Do not approach the... Gunfire interrupted the broadcast. A man's voice, frantic. They're inside! They're inside! Don't trust the orders! It's a lie! The general is... A wet crunch. Static. I slammed my fist against the wall. Station Delta, the old parking garage on 7th. If Command was still alive, that's where they'd be, but so would Valkyrie. The streets were a graveyard, abandoned cars, bodies wrapped in sheets, and the infected, slow, twitching, their milky eyes tracking movement. I moved like a ghost, sticking to shadows. Halfway there I heard the screams. A woman, backed against a bus stop by 3 infected. She swung a fire extinguisher, cracking a skull here, a kneecap there, but they kept coming. I didn't want to help, didn't want the noise, but her eyes met mine, wide, furious, alive, and I snapped. 2 headshots, one through a zombie's temple. The woman bashed the last one's head in, panting. "Thanks," she spat, like it offended her to say it. I nodded at the crowbar in her hand. "You're handy with that. Pharmacist used to fight insurance companies. This isn't much different." She eyed my gear. "SWAT?" "Was. Nowhere to go?" "Station Delta," I said. She laughed, raw, angry. "Delta's gone. Valkyrie hit it an hour ago. Everyone's dead." My stomach dropped. "Then why are you still here?" She leaned in. "Because I know where they're taking the survivors, and you're gonna help me burn their shit to the ground." Her name was Reyes. She didn't offer a first name. Didn't matter. She had a map scribbled with coordinates, a compound outside the city. Valkyrie's quarantine zone. "They're rounding people up," she said, "testing the serum on them, making more monsters, making soldiers." I showed her the case. "This what they're using?" She paled. "You've seen what it does. Why carry it? Evidence or a cure?" We stared at each other. The radio buzzed. "Containment breach at grid 6. Deploying asset." Reyes grabbed her crowbar. "We need to move. They found us at the bridge. Not infected. Valkyrie. A squad in black, led by a woman with a scarred face and a smirk." "SWAT," she purred. "You're a cockroach, aren't you?" I aimed my rifle. "Stay back." She didn't flinch. "You've got something we want. Hand it over and we'll make your death quick." Reyes charged. Chaos bullets ripped the air. I took 2 in the vest, the impact knocking me into the guardrail. Reyes swung her crowbar at Scarface, connecting with a kneecap. The woman howled, pulling a knife. I shot her in the spine, but more kept coming. Enhanced speed. Enhanced strength. A fist shattered my nose. Another broke 2 ribs. I tasted blood. Reyes yelled, "The case! Don't let them—" A merc grabbed it. I tackled him. We rolled into the street. His teeth sank into my forearm. Not a bite. A human bite. I headbutted him, pried the case free, and bashed his skull with it. Reyes dragged me up. "Go! Now!" We ran. Behind us a roar. Not human, not zombie. Something worse. Scarface stood, her body contorted. Black veins pulsed under her skin. Her eyes glowed faintly red. "Asset deployed," she rasped, her voice guttural. "Kill them." Scarface, no, not Scarface anymore, lunged. Her body twisted like a snapped cable, limbs elongating, fingers sharpened into claws. The serum had hollowed her into something rabid, her glowing red eyes locking onto us. Reyes swung her crowbar, but the thing batted it away like a toothpick. "Head for the cars!" I shouted, firing blindly. Bullets punched into the creature's chest, but it didn't slow. It laughed, a wet gurgling sound, as it vaulted onto a sedan's roof, denting the metal. Reyes yanked open a truck door. "Drive! Drive!" The engine roared to life. I slammed the gas, tires screeching as the hybrid leapt onto the hood. Its claws stabbed through the windshield, glass exploding. Reyes grabbed a flare from her pack, lit it with her teeth, and jammed it into the thing's gaping mouth. It howled, thrashing as flames engulfed its head. I swerved violently, sending it tumbling into a street lamp. The impact crumpled the metal pole like foil. "Is it dead?" Reyes screamed. In the rearview mirror, the creature staggered upright, its face a smoldering skull. No! We blew through a barricade of abandoned cars, the truck's hood crumpling. The city blurred, burning buildings, bodies strung up in makeshift nests. The infected here were different, faster, smarter. They scrambled over walls in packs, hissing as we passed. Reyes navigated with bloody fingers, the map spread on her lap. Next left, there's a tunnel. Lead straight to the compound. An explosion rocked the street behind us. Valkyrie's truck surged into view, mounted machine guns shredding concrete. I ducked as bullets ripped through the tailgate. They're hurting us, I snarled. Then let's crash the party, Reyes said, pulling a grenade from her belt. She lobbed it. The lead truck erupted, flipping into a storefront. The second swerved, right into a horde of infected. Screams filled the air as the creatures tore into the mercs. But the hybrid was still coming. The tunnel was pitch black, choked with abandoned vehicles. We ditched the truck, slipping through the carnage on foot. My ribs screamed with every step. The knife wound on my side had started to throb, hot and slick. I didn't tell Reyes. We found a van with its keys still in the ignition. Reyes hotwired it, her hand steady. You're bleeding. Scrapes. She didn't buy it. Let me see. I batted her hand away. Eyes on the road. The hybrid's roar echoed through the tunnel. Closer. The compound rose in the distance, a sprawling fortress surrounded by electric fences. Valkyrie's flag hung limp in the ash-choked air. Guards patrolled the walls, but so did infected, collared and leashed like dogs. Reyes parked behind a gutted bus. They're using them as guards, bastards. I grabbed the steel case. We need to get inside, find proof of the insider, or blow it all up. A snarl cut through the static. The hybrid emerged from the tunnel, its flesh regrown, eyes burning brighter. It had evolved. Distracted, I said. I'll hit the power grid. Reyes smirked. Don't die. She revved the van straight at the creature, blaring the horn. It lunged, claws shredding the roof as she swerved into the compound's gates. Alarms blared. I slipped through the chaos, scaling the fence. The wound on my side tore open, blood soaking my shirt. Inside the compound, screams echoed from a hangar. Peering through a vent, I gagged. Civilians. Hundreds of them. Caged. Valkyrie scientists in hazmat suits injected some with the black serum. Others were thrown to the infected. Their deaths recorded on tablets. Data. A familiar face made my blood freeze. Captain Riggs. Alive. Clean. Chatting with a Valkyrie exec. Phase 2 is ahead of schedule, the exec said. The general will be pleased. Riggs nodded. Once the city's cleansed, we'll have our army. Betrayal curdled in my gut. Riggs. The man who'd sent us into Aurora Point, the man who'd ordered us to burn it all, he was the insider. I moved to strike. A claw speared through the vent, dragging me into the hangar. The hybrid pinned me, its drool sizzling on my vest. Riggs turned, smiling. The cockroach survives. He aimed his pistol at my head. Give me the case. The creature's grip tightened, bones creaking. Reyes's voice crackled in my earpiece. Power's down! Go! Lights died. Screams erupted. I headbutted Riggs, snatched his gun, and fired into the hybrid's glowing eyes. It reeled, howling. Reyes burst in, crowbar in one hand, detonator in the other. Fire in the hole! She hit the button. The hangar's supports exploded. The hangar collapsed in a roar of fire and twisted metal. Reyes and I dove through the chaos, the hybrid screams echoing as beams crushed its regenerating body. Smoke choked the air. Cages burst open, freed civilians stampeding as Valkyrie's soldiers turned guns on their own experiments. Riggs fled toward a helipad clutching a briefcase. Intel, proof of the conspiracy. Go! Reyes shoved me. I'll cover you! She hurled a smoke grenade into a squad of mercs, her crowbar clashing with their blades. I ran, blood slicking my boots, the serum case a lead weight in my grip. The helipad loomed. Riggs stood under the rotors of a black chopper, shouting into a radio, "Lift off, now!" I emptied my pistol. Bullets sparked off the hull. The chopper rose, Riggs clinging to the skids. "You lose, brother," he roared. "The general wins." I didn't hesitate. I sprinted, leapt, and grabbed the skids. The city dropped away beneath us, infected swarming like ants. Riggs kicked at my face, but I hauled myself up, slamming him against the cockpit glass. "Who's the general?" I snarled. He laughed, blood foaming on his lips. "You'll never!" The hybrid's claw erupted through the floor. It had survived. Half its body was charred bone, the other half pulsing with new muscle. It dragged itself into the chopper, eyes blazing. Riggs screamed. The creature lunged, tearing into his stomach. Riggs's final act was to shove the briefcase into my hands before the hybrid ripped out his throat. The chopper spun, engines failing. I scrambled into the pilot's seat, wrestling the controls. The hybrid crawled toward me, jaws snapping. I grabbed the serum case, go ahead and burn it all. I cracked a vial, splashing the black liquid into the creature's gaping mouth. It convulsed. Flesh melted, bones cracked. With a shriek, it dissolved into sludge, its final roar swallowed by the wind. The crash was a blur. Trees sheared the rotors. Metal screamed. I blacked out, woke to the stench of jet fuel and pine. The briefcase lay intact beside me. Inside, files, photos, video drives, and a name. General Margaret Voss, Secretary of Defense, Architect of Project Blacklight. Her face stared back from a dozen documents, cold as the grave. Reyes found me hours later, limping, her left arm bandaged. "You look like hell." "Valkyrie's just the middleman," I said, tossing her the file. "The cancer's at the top." She flipped through it, jaw tight. "So we cut it out. We broadcast everything. Hacked emergency channels, dumped files onto dark web servers, footage of Riggs' betrayal, Valkyrie's experiments, the general's orders. The world erupted, cities rebelled, militias turned on their commanders. The infected spread, but so did the truth. In the end, it wasn't bullets that killed the general. It was a press conference, a reporter shoving a mic in her face, demanding answers. The clip played on loop, her sneer collapsing into panic as the crowd surged. They say she was torn apart by the people, not the infected. Poetic. Reyes and I disappeared. The serum case? Buried in a concrete grave under a parking lot. Some evils shouldn't be reused or recycled. My wounds never fully healed. The knife scar burns sometimes. I check my eyes in the mirror. Every damn day. But I'm here. You're watching this because I kept my promise. To Riggs, to Haddad, to Vega, to the dead kid in the sewer. Burn it all. If you're seeing this, fight. Not just the infected, the liars, the ones who sell doomsday for profit. They're out there, and they're scared.